So, on our panel, our last panel, I am just so honored, as we all should be, to have four distinguished panelists. And we begin by just thanking Carlos Obrador Garrido Cuesta. He is the head consul of Mexico in Philadelphia. And he has had a distinguished career as a diplomat for over 30 years in the Mexican Foreign Service. And he's born in, I won't say this right, Jalapa, Veracruz?
Muy bien.
Oh, gracias, senor. He holds a degree in international relations from the National Autonomous University of Mexico and is specialized in North American relations, international law, and consular protection. Throughout his career, he has held key positions in Canada, Texas, and Boston, including overseeing consular protection, trade promotion, and cultural initiatives. I could go on and on. His bio is most distinguished. But I will tell him that I got my first taste of living abroad as a 14-year-old who went with the nuns to Mexico, in a little town called Saltillo. And I spent the summer, I went with no Spanish, and I came out able to habla. It was a wonderful experience for me. It taught me a little bit about the beauty of the world in that area. So, yes, absolutely, Mexico for sure. And now we have with us a new friend, a very new friend, but he is promising to also help us in the world, James Zhang. And James Zhang, he is a distinguished hospitality executive, entrepreneur, and community leader whose career bridges business, education, and cultural exchange between China and the United States. And I want you guys to see this. Because of James, we are going to be able to offer travel to China with WAC. And if you want to do it, December 9th through 19th, I think here, the price is unbeatable, and our hosts are unbeatable. So look at this information, go to our website. You can travel with us to China, December 9th through 19th, and the price, trust me, is unbeatable. All right?
Thank you.
Mr. Zhang has dedicated himself to strengthening ties between China, the United States, and Southeast Asia. As president of the Sino American Business and Travel Association. Through his role, he has championed business cooperation, educational exchange, and cultural understanding as essential tools for promoting peace and mutual respect. And one of the things he loves doing is connecting those young people, right? There's going to be a Model UN. So he'll talk about some of that, but this is the kind of stuff that can also make it. We've got people like Rachel doing her part, right? And we need that. And we've got people like James pulling them together, getting you together, talking, right? So at any rate, you're going to learn a lot more about what Mr. Zhang does, because he really is a leader in international cross-cultural exchange. And I will say, an old friend also, we don't get to see him as much, is Wilfred Muskens. And Wilfred is the program director of Pennsylvania Global Business Advisors. He's spoken with us before, and he oversees international operations and helps Pennsylvania companies expand into global markets. That's the business side, right? And he is a native of the Netherlands. He has decades of experience in economic development, having served as Pennsylvania's Deputy Secretary for International Business Development under Governor Rendell, under Corbett and under Wolf. I didn't realize under Wolf too, right? And Director of Foreign Direct Investment under Governor Rich. Wow. So at any rate, you know he's got all these educational distinguishments, but he is also the Honorary Consul for the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Philadelphia. So thank you in all of your importance and time to be with us. Thank you. And I did want to invite one other person to come forward, Hector. You should be here with us. Please, Hector Luis Torres Diaz, okay? And he's with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. We were supposed to have Chad, who's a good friend, not able to be here, but he sent Hector, who is Civil Rights Outreach Coordinator, and I think that's an important position for us to have. with us today in our conversation. So there you have it. And so what I'm going to do is let us begin with our Consul General from Mexico, because he's going to tell us a little bit about Mexico and really start the conversation on how travel, exchange, business, dialogue, all of that can maybe stop us from killing each other.
All right, thank you very much. It's an honor, Joyce, to be here with the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. Of course, it's very nice to see so many friends. Oralia, Garcia, Dominic, thank you, and of course Mary, thank you for all the emails and information that we have been, receiving. Very important to be here. I would like to start. I know we have not too much time, but just to give you an idea, a sample of what Mexico is in Pennsylvania. Oh. So if we could play a 4-minute video that will give you an idea, and this is, I believe it's important because we just celebrated September 16. We just celebrated 215 years of the Mexican Independence Day. And this is just a sample. Now, this is Penn's Landing in Philadelphia. Penn's Landing, as some of you might know, is under construction, renovation. So this is the last video we were able to take before, in 2022, before they started construction, but it will give you a little a taste of what Mexico brings to Pennsylvania. Thank you. So, thank you. I wanted to start with that, which is a happy note, because we rather focus on the positive and the things that are happening without, of course, disregarding the important matters in the world, or at least in the relationship between Mexico and United States. I had some remarks prepared, but I guess it's better if I just give you a little more information about what is Mexico, your neighbor to the south. Very important. First is the historical perspective. Nowadays it's more important than ever to learn from history, because very often I get people, Mexican nationals, complaining to me, saying, I was in a Walmart, I was in a store, and people was telling me, because they heard me speaking Spanish, go back to your country. Well, I tell my community, if without putting your life at risk, teach that person a historic lesson. And that lesson is as follows. This country wouldn't be United States without Mexico and Mexicans. For two simple reasons, but very powerful reasons. The first one is, not too long ago, Mexico, 1848, we lost more than half of our territory. So this country wouldn't be United States without California, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, what is the other border town? Utah, Nevada, and 7 states. So again, here we go. California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, Colorado, and Nevada.
You can
But
have
guess-
one or two of them back, but.
But guess what? It's not only the territory. It's not only the land. There were people there. So we never crossed the border. The border crossed us.
Yes.
So that's the reality. I mean, that's history, right? And you know, we have the numbers. 1848, how many Mexicans were living on this side of the border? More than 150,000. So we never came. The border crossed us. And that's important because nowadays, they are trying, I mean, we are not, by the way, I have to do a disclaimer. We are not political. We, as consuls, as career diplomats, of course, we follow the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and the Mexico-United States Convention on Consular Relations, dating back 1942. Vienna Convention 1963. But this is important because we Mexicans are intrinsical part of this country. Whether you like it or not, we're joined by the hip. We are not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere. We're here to stay. And you saw probably a little white bird dancing in the video. That bird is Bimbo, is the mascot for Bimbo Bakeries. Bimbo Bakeries, if you are a soccer fan, you might notice the jersey from the Philadelphia Union soccer team. The main sponsor is called Bimbo. But Bimbo is also a Mexican transnational company. Bimbo employs 20,000 people in the United States, 10,000 of them in Pennsylvania, and is the largest bakery in the world. You know, when you have your breakfast coffee, your morning coffee with your sweets, Sara Lee, Entenmann's, those are Bimbo. You are eating a Mexican candy or a Mexican sweet. So it's important to realize that we are not only, a very important role, of course, farm workers, people doing the heavy lifting, people during the pandemic, we realized how important the immigrant community was because they were the ones on the front line putting food on our table. We have about 10,000 farm workers, documented farm workers in Pennsylvania that come every year on an H-2A visa for agricultural work. But not only that, Mexico is the first trading partner of United States and vice versa. The #1 trading partner of United States, with all due respect to my friends and my colleagues, and by the way, it's very good to see you. We see each other a lot in Philly. And it's wonderful to see you again. But Mexico is the #1 trading partner of United States. And sometimes that is overseen or not really well known, right? So nobody trades more than Mexico, but that applies both ways. We are first trading partners. Not only that, we have the largest, Mexicans is the largest diaspora in this country. We have 40 million Mexican Americans in the United States. And it's not only the second generation, third generation, but what I call forever generations of Mexicans and Mexican Americans because of what I just explained. So, but similarly, no other country in the world would have 2 million American diaspora, 2 million US citizens outside of United States. It's not Canada, it's not Israel, it's not England, it's Mexico, where you will find 2 million expats, American citizens. And so, we not only share a very long border that unites us, but we also share a lot of values, family, and cultural ties as well. And so I don't know, I'm not taking track. One of the handicaps of the diplomats, sorry, is that we speak a lot. And I don't keep track of the time, so I don't know.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay, yes, so for respect to my colleagues. I congratulate the WAC because it's very important. This topic, especially, I was talking to my colleague with Raul Garcia, who is my deputy consul, very good friend and colleague of mine. We were just talking how fortunate we were to come in here because of the topic. It's important, like we say in Spanish, es importantísimo el tema. It's disrupting the cycle of genocide and travel and trade as an antidote to hatred and war. Congratulations for having that in mind, for having the main focus of this conference being that. Because I guess if we don't tackle, if we don't change perspective, visions, it's going to be very hard later on. I want to focus on the positives, but also probably I'll leave it there. I'll be happy to talk more, of course. The Consulate of Mexico celebrates 200 years, for instance, 200 years of permanent presence in Philadelphia. This is only the Mexican consulate in Philadelphia is the second oldest consulate of Mexico, the first one being in 1824 in New Orleans. And then the Mexican consulate in Philadelphia opened its doors in 1825. So 200 years of diplomatic relations, consular relations with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we are very honored and happy to be there. 6 years, sorry, I didn't, well, you introduced me, but I've been there for 6 years, and it's been a wonderful experience serving the Mexican community and also the business community, because we issue a lot of visas, work visas for American workers doing work for American companies and Mexican companies as well in Mexico. So I'll leave it there, and I'll be happy to continue the dialogue. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my honor to be here.
Thank you.
It's not my- This is my honor to be here today, and first, let me thank Ms. Joyce Davis for the invitations. It is a privilege to represent the Sino-American Business Travel Association based in Philadelphia. I was a little surprised to see the familiar face, all the friends in here. I thought I was travel about 50 miles by myself. But good to see all the new faces. The association was founded in 2014. We have a simple mission. Just building the bridges for the United States, China, and a few countries in the Southeast Asia. We do this through the education, through the tourism, and also business, trade, and cultural exchange. Why? Because I believe trade creates mutual benefits. Education gave the young leaders with global vision. And the tourism bring the people together. But most important, the cultural exchanges help people understand each other. So the reason we kind of more focus on the tourism, we think bring the people face to face is more important than on today's online or on the phone, and have a better understanding. We see today world face a lot of challenges, and Russian-Ukraine wars dragged on more than 4 years. The conflicts in the Middle East even grow more complex. Southeast Asian countries face some instability. And the last, not least, the tensions in South China Sea still remain unsolved. With that said, obviously, like Carlos said, as on behalf of the government, communication is very important, our officials important. I believe people to people dialogue is invited. Past 10 years, we bring a lot of business leaders, professors, community leaders, and educators, students together. Let them tell the story to each other, challenge the stereotypes, and build a trust, have an understanding across the board. In the past decade, we helped many American companies and Chinese companies landing business in the US and in China. In the meantime, we welcome hundreds, thousands of students coming to the US and visitors and tourists. We host international National United Nations conference in China and in US twice a year. In China it's summer and the US is in the winter. We partner with the Global Citizen Unite. It's Global Citizen UNA, which is organized by the United Network of Europe. So there are over about 3,000 students hosted Model UN at New York every end of the year of February. And China is every year of July, while the students off at the summer programs. It's over about 1,000 students, which we see, it makes a lot of, put it this way, when we first time hosted this Model UN in China, we bring the European students, a few American students in the same rooms. They're being the friends, they're so close. Even the English language barrier is not able to help them communicate very well, but they use the body language. They be friends, they're so close. But in the rooms, when we talk about a global-faced problems, like SDGs issues, warm weathers, and the refugees, we see clearly the students have the disagreements and their argument, and their arguments is incredible. We saw their friends would be not peaceful and they're really kind of fighting arguments. What we learned is different backgrounds, different educations, different systems, kind of trained younger generation students to the different way approaching to the questions, conflicts, or issues. There's nothing right or wrong. We believe, we tell them through the United Nations Model UN, we wanted them to learn seeking the ground commons and keep or reserve your disagreements. That's how we understand each other. I believe this is how reduce the misunderstanding and can stop the conflict when it begins. This is what we believe. Also, we help build school partnerships, which for last the cooperation for long term. And I'm happy to discuss a little bit further. What the travel programs, the other programs, but this I leave it later. There's colleagues that have to speak. But I look forward to the opportunity to work with everybody. At least I believe with the people face to face together, or we have better understanding each other, the cultures. I think we can make the world more peaceful and nice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, James, Carlos. Good seeing you both. Good afternoon. Thank you, Joyce, for the invitation. I hope you notice how friendly and respectful my colleagues were. Isn't this an example, right? How peace should be discussed and how people should be able to have a conversation without yelling at each other, or without accusing each other. That being said, I do have to say something about the history of the United States. And I totally agree with Carlos, and he's absolutely right. Mexico is very important and will always be very important and part of the United States. And I liked how you described the border moving instead of people. That's not the case with the Dutch. You know, I'm from the Netherlands, came from a small, well, average-sized city called Utrecht. If anybody's been there. The Dutch, does anybody know what year the Dutch came to the United States? Before the actual creation of the United States. Well, it's almost exactly 400 years ago. Yeah, 1625, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's exactly 400 years ago. The first settlement officially, I think it was on Long Island, New York, was started by Dutch. It came from a country I just visited this summer in Africa, country of Cameroon, in West Africa, where it was made for me, and I brought it back home. And I liked the fact that it was my color. At the same time, it came from a different country, a different continent, right? So I thought it was maybe a good example of how the world works, how trade works, and the topic is trade and travel, and how it contributes to mutual understanding. Another thing, when Joyce asked me to be on this panel, I started thinking about other historical things that I think could illustrate this topic. And one thing that came to mind almost immediately, and I know Joyce knows this as well, I grew up about 45 minutes from the Peace Palace. Peace Palace is headquartered, is located in The Hague, one of the largest cities in the Netherlands. It's the Peace Palace, there's only one in the world. So it's hosted in the Netherlands, but it wasn't funded. It was funded by somebody who actually, does anybody know who funded and started the Peace Palace? No. Based in The Hague? It was actually funded by a businessman, talking about trade, who came originally from Scotland, moved from Scotland to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with his family when he was a teenager, became very wealthy, very successful, and then started doing a lot of philanthropy, difficult word to pronounce, but gave a lot of money away for a lot of different causes in his life, and one of them was he funded Peace Palace. His name was Andrew Carnegie. So Andrew Carnegie was actually single-handedly paid for the Peace Palace. I looked at a little bit of history there, and he gave $1.5 million at the time to build the Peace Palace, and that covered the entire cost of the land, the building, everything. So without an American, an immigrant, by the way, an immigrant American, there wouldn't be a Peace Palace currently in the Netherlands. And the Peace Palace hosts, of course, the International Court of Justice. I don't know, sorry, I wasn't here this morning when you talked about genocide. I'm sure probably the International Court of Justice came up at some point. So that is located in the Peace Palace. There's several organizations located at, I think that's the major one, International Court of Justice. It also has a court of arbitration that's located there. And the Court of Justice is probably the most important to maintain, well, let's say world peace. I mean, it's the institution that that Andrew Carnegie created to help maintain world peace. He believed in, dialogue, education, philanthropy, travel and trade, more so than in war. He actually said some really interesting things about war that were basically, we're really stupid to still in this, and this was in 1913, I think it's more than a century ago. He says things like, why are we still having wars in this world, we haven't we learned from the past? And and one quote, see if I can remember the quote now. Yeah, I think I have it approximately. He said, there is no heroism in war. The true hero is he or she, I'm not sure if he said that, but he or she who prevents war. So that's a quote from Andrew Carnegie, and he used that in a speech that he gave at the official opening of the Peace Palace in The Hague in 1913. Well, you know, and then you realize when you look at history, the next year, the First World War started, 1914, 1 year after the opening of the Peace Palace, which is really sad when you think about that. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of wars since. There are a lot of wars now, and I think the example of Andrew Carnegie, I think, is great to remember when we think about what's going on in the world now and how we can better try and talk to each other, understand each other, respect each other, and in that way, you know, prevent conflict and prevent war. And that's very difficult. It's very difficult because it has to come from both sides, right? There's two parties usually, sometimes more than two, that are fighting each other, whether it's in Gaza, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Sudan. You know, unfortunately, there's many other examples around the world, but those are probably the very big ones right now. There's usually two major parties, and they fight about what? Land, power, you know, people, influence over people, religion. Those are usually the motivations for war, sadly. And if people were able to meet each other, talk to each other, understand each other's religion, culture, history, and also look at the history of the world and see the wars that have taken place in the past, how many people got killed, and what was the end result? Did it get us any closer to peace? Well, I think the answer is no, right? Looking back at least a couple of wars. And the Netherlands itself, although we are a very peaceful country now, we were affected by the Second World War. We were occupied by the Germans, excuse me, like many countries in Europe. And in the past, we also we had our own period in history where there was a lot of violence and a lot of aggression. And that also was related to trade, by the way. You know, we were the largest trading nation in the 17th century, which we call, historically, we call the golden age of the Netherlands. But there were people suffering under that golden age, right? There was slavery. There were people that their products were stolen from them, or they were not being paid a fair price for what they made or sold. So it's not all, you know, you call it all positive and all happiness in that history. But now I think together with Mexico, together with China and many other countries, we have judges that are on the board of the International Court of Justice. But there's 15 judges, every judge comes from a different country, and all my colleagues are represented here. And we look at major conflicts, excuse me, the International Court of Justice looks at major conflicts. Parties can bring a case, for example, the Gaza conflict, right? It's currently a case that's being discussed, and it will be judged by the International Court of Justice. And there could be others as well. There are others currently from other countries. Now, one final question, I think, maybe to end. There are two countries in the world that do not accept decisions from the International Court of Justice as binding, you can say, right? There's two countries. Anybody wants to guess?
Yes.
No, sorry.
United States.
United States, and I'm sorry, the other one is less important. But I think the surprising one really is, maybe for some of you, only two countries in the world. The United States is one that does not respect the binding results of the International Court of Justice. So that's the reality. I mean, whatever you think of
What's
it.
the other one?
China. Sorry. So, well, thank you again. I just wanted to share some thoughts. Yeah, the history of the Netherlands. I thought Andrew Carnegie was a good example of trade, business and trade, and how it can help bring peace and help to understand each other by meeting other cultures, meeting people with other backgrounds. And so it's all about understanding and respect, I think, and it starts all with education, right? When you talk about even preschool, elementary school age, and also parents, of course, parenting, teaching your children that peace and respect and compassion are values that are universal, and that if they live their lives like that, that the world will become a better place eventually, little by little, right? One person by one person. Thank you.
And well, now to your most underwhelming speaker of the series. One obvious comment, clearly I am not 6'6" and the executive director of the Human Relations Commission. I'm a 5'8" stocky Latino male, but I'll do for today.
That's it.
So, number one, it has been amazing hearing these exquisite panelists here today. Just to talk a little bit, before I even get into my topic, let's just congratulate Mexico for being a staple of the world through their cuisine. Another way demonstrating that we can interconnect, even through simple things like food. Now, so where to begin? So we're going to make things a little more local through my particular part of the presentation here today. So we're the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, and one important thing is everything I say is my personal opinion. While I am providing you certain facts about the agency, it is not a reflection of the agency. So, to begin, the Human Relations Commission was created in 1955 through the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act. Now, that seems like a very dreary and boring document, but it is actually quite important in terms of people currently in this room and across Pennsylvania. What we do through that is protect people in the state of Pennsylvania, whether you're passing through, whether you're visiting, whether you live here, and most importantly, regardless of your immigration status in Pennsylvania, we ensure that you are protected from discrimination in housing, in commercial property, in employment, and very importantly, in the education sphere, such as the one you're in here today. Now, one of the things that we do when things do not necessarily fall under the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act or even the Pennsylvania Education Act from 1965, we enter into things called civil rights workshops and overviews and No Hate in Our State town halls. And that's very important. To the very least, we want to ensure that we are not just fostering dialogue at the international, federal, and state level. We want to ensure that every level where people are at, you understand the importance of dialogue. Because let's face it, the United States is changing. Pennsylvania is becoming more black and brown, and that sometimes can be intimidating for a more homogeneous population. So it's important that we come around and start having centers of dialogue about these changes. So for example, in a small place called Norristown, Pennsylvania, there is a massive Latino population. I believe predominantly Mexican. But they also have sub-Latino groups. And people who lack understanding sometimes of our differences clump us all as one and believe that we all have the same customs, the same cultural ways of working. So what we do is, we're not saying that you've done anything wrong. We're not even accusing anybody of doing anything wrong. We're coming in and we're saying, hey, this is the breakdown of your community. Now let's talk about that breakdown. Why is that important? It's important because this is how you get to talk to somebody who's from Mexico, or from Puerto Rico, or from the Dominican Republic. 3 large groups in the Norristown area. Similar language, similar social customs, but is ever so slightly different. And it's important that we not necessarily know how to distinguish them if you're not from that social group off the bat, but if you learn that that person isn't what you think it is, it's how to maneuver that conversation so that not only you make yourself feel comfortable, you make yourself feel comfortable asking them questions, interacting with them. Because the way we break down barriers of social injustice, inequality, and foster a more harmonious society is by engaging in dialogue, in conversations that make us uncomfortable. It's just as simple as that. Our executive director, who couldn't be here today, he's an African American, and in York County a few years ago, you can read this in the newspaper. He was hosting something that we call a No Hate in Our State town hall. That is something that we do when an incident in any community occurs. It may or may not be within our jurisdictional authority to handle as an enforcement agency, but it may be within our educational outreach efforts. And for example, they were talking about the racial issues in York County. And guess who showed up to that meeting? The Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Believe it or not, that article says, that's the title of the article says, what do you do if the Grand Wizard shows up to your town hall? Well, the executive director and the mayor allow him to speak. Why? Because our executive director, through the PHRC and our statutory authority, have created this vision of looking at the person through their human brokenness. Not through the lens of, you hate me, thus I have to be fearful or reticent of who you are. That doesn't mean we allow you to spew hate. That doesn't mean we allow you to be belligerent, assault people, do any of those things. But what it means is if we are going to be in a town hall where we're saying all opinions are welcome, that means all opinions are going to be welcomed so that we can not only understand how the mind of somebody like that works, but so that we learn for the future. This is how we have to navigate a system that is dominated by a potential issue where we turn this into this black-white binary. No, we're all people that live in Pennsylvania. We're all Pennsylvanians. And what matters is we have similar relationships. We have similar family problems. We have similar economic problems. Maybe some are better off than others. But at the end of the day, when you talk to somebody that looks like any of us on this panel, you're gonna find out our parents died. Our aunts have health issues. We are going through financial issues because we're trying to go to school. Whatever the case may be, the purpose of the PHRC is not only to protect your rights, but also to foster community engagement. And so, I'll be here after the panel is over, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who has any additional questions they don't feel comfortable asking. But, this is a pretty brief summation of who the PHRC is. And I think it's important that if you know of anything, if you want us in your community, we'll be there. Our services are free. We provide any kind of training, and we particularize it to any group. And going back to the Norristown example, we literally did a training on cultural sensitivity and teaching people how to, at the very least, linguistically, culinarily, and socially identify the differences between myself, who's a Puerto Rican, and the consul, who's Mexican. It's a very, not as difficult as you would imagine, but it's just a simple tool that can go a long way to resolve an unnecessary conflict and foster dialogue.
Beautiful. You're gonna have to share, guys, okay? But that really was beautiful. We went from, is this on? No. Testing. Orange. Okay, I think that's it. So that was really, we went from the international and travel and trade and food to local, right? And understanding that we have help here to foster better understanding among us, right? as Americans, just right here. But I guess I want to start, you can get your questions ready. I want to start off by saying, you know, it pains some of us very much that our friends, we're having problems with our friends. Mexico, that should be a friend. Canada, a friend. These are, right, our neighbors, they're us. They should be us. And then we know that, well, we have problems with China, right? But should it lead us to nuclear war, right? Can't we figure out a way, as James is trying to do, to let the people know you have a lot in common, and you know what? There's so much fun in getting to know another people, another culture. My greatest joy in life has been traveling, being and living in other countries, learning how to see the world from someone else's perspective and how to eat their food, right? But that's what they shared with us. But I guess the question I have for each one of you, how difficult is your job now? And what can we do to help in fostering? Because James, I got one of the people as we're promoting this China trip. One of my dear friends says, Joyce, should we leave the country now? Joyce, is this safe to go to China now? Could we be held hostage now? You see all the things that are coming up, right? Even I love it. I started off my travels in Mexico, but I warned you, better not go there. You might get kidnapped. I mean, you see what you're dealing with. Even from people who know better, there's all of this tension there. So I guess we want to talk, how can we help you guys address the tension, lower the decibel, and what of all this immigration problems here, how is that impacting your ability to promote business? And I think you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
There you guys go and take your turns.
Well, from my perspective is, you know, the best the American society, the Americans can do is, and this is not political, but this is what I see within my community, is uphold the Constitution, the rights of the American Constitution. This is what I tell my community when they come to us afraid. It's the Constitution grants rights to everybody regardless of their immigration status, the right to remain silent, the right to due process, upheld the principles of the Constitution. Because everybody, I've seen it, Mexican Americans, people born in this country, at least, and I talk again, the disclaimer is, I talk about experiences within my community. This is also affecting the American citizen that thinks that they might be, you know, not at risk. They are at risk. I have seen it. Mexican Americans being detained, handcuffed at gunpoint. So that's why it's very simple. Uphold the Constitution. Yes, thank you.
You know, what I was looking at is this area. First, everybody, they say that China, so they look at me, oh, you're Chinese. But don't take it personal, don't take it offensive, you know? People saying, okay, China is my mother country, my motherland, okay? But it's not China is doing all the things. It's the government who is the People Republic of China to manage the company, such as a CEO, a general manager, to manage it in the country, just like here have Democratic Republican, you know, today maybe Republicans being the president, Donald Trump, and tomorrow is a different one, you know? So what I understand, special during the pandemic, there's a lot of voices against the China saying, okay, it's even saying that the virus from China, okay? Then the Chinese are saying, okay, you know, in the United States, and all the issues. I even had a good friend call me, said, James, why you stay over there? There's no food, empty of the supermarkets, okay? And Asian heat, you know, so a lot of things going on. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the media, coming from news, coming from what they need for the country or for the government, for the peoples. I believe sometimes don't take it personal. Try to explain, you know, because you're just like you see a coin. What side you look at it, it's a different side, but it's coin, it's two-sided. Everybody knows. Flip it over, it's the same, the other side. What's wrong? Nothing wrong with the coins, you know? And it's just what angle you look at. So this way, I was talking to Joyce a long time ago, why we're kind of more devoted to promote the travel, people to people, face to face. You see better than everybody talk here. I can talk the whole day long how bad China is. Nobody can believe when you go over there and look at it. Just when we do the trip, before the trip, the first trip we organized from the Harrisburg Academy, I mentioned, the students group, they have like hundreds of thousands of questions. After they're coming back, there's nothing. And they are talking about good. They're impressed. There's good or bad, depends on what angle, what you look at. There's no perfect. I'm not saying China is perfect, the same as the US is not perfect. But I think the best, use your own judgment, use your eye to look at it. And education is important, help the young people learn the world, approaching to the world without fears, without even you don't go there. Everybody say, oh, maybe go Mexico, you know, certain areas are very dangerous. Okay, go India, it's very dangerous, those things. But look at it on your own, with curious, not fear, with respect, not prejudice. You know, so I think this is helping a lot. What we're doing, obviously, with the Carlos is saying the government constitution is important, but if you just look at the TV, listen to the radio, you don't try personally to explore, you're gonna go nowhere. You know, and it's even getting worse. So hopefully what we can help is able to, like a Warfare Council Harrisburg, and Joyce is willing to promote the travel program, willing to communicate or connect us with the school. We can tell them, we can introduce the program to them. And the goal is bring them to China, or we bring the Chinese students come to the United States. Last winter, right? First we met, Ms. Davis is at the Harrisburg Academy's school, right? We bring 12 students from China to emerging, attended school with the emerging program. And at the closing ceremony, you hear all the students want to study at the US, don't want to go back. So they interview them, ask them a very simple question, so why do you want to get back? Guess what their answer is? They said, oh, here the school ends at 3 o'clock. In China, the school ends at 9 o'clock. She's a witness, I'm not lying. So this is very simple. You know, this is just the education system. Is it right? Is something right or something wrong? No, nothing wrong with right. Because not means end at 3 o'clock you don't go study, you don't go to club, you don't go anywhere. You know, it's China studied to 9 o'clock. Is their academic is good. So there you can't judge just what is happening, you need to look at what is happening. This is what I look at, you know. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
James is right. I think giving those examples, you know, I'm lucky in a way, or maybe not. I don't know, but I look like I'm a white male, so I don't look like an immigrant, right? I am an immigrant. You can't tell. This is why I wear this shirt, so people think, where does he come from? We even as Europeans, you know, we also have been targeted in the trade wars, also like old friends like Mexico and Canada, with centuries and centuries of friendship and history and trading back and forth, beneficial to both sides. So I like, you know, I'm used to looking at the facts, right? The facts are the numbers of, you mentioned some investment from Mexico, like Bimbo. How many companies invest in the US and create jobs here? How many US companies export to Mexico, to the Netherlands, to China? How many jobs does that create in the US? those are all facts, and you can see those numbers. They're online, right? You can look them up, and they're impressive. International trade creates tremendous amounts of jobs. So that's kind of sad about the current situation, whether you're for or against tariffs, or certain tariffs, but the reality is it's hurting the US as much as it's hurting the other countries. Just because of all the economies are intertwined, and specifically with Canada and Mexico, right, the free trade agreement, but also within Europe, with countries in Asia and the Middle East. Even countries that have free trade agreements with the US have also been affected by the tariffs on steel, on aluminum, for example. And even more, and this goes back to what James said, what's really a pity, I think, right now, is when you look at tourism. Tourism is a really good means of learning about other cultures. Well, Americans, in general, average, don't travel as much as many other countries. That's one issue. And the second is now that because of the immigration situation, less foreigners are coming to the United States. I forgot the number, but I think it's at least 20%, maybe more from Mexico and Canada, 20% decrease in the number of foreign tourists coming to the US. Tourism is a major industry. Pennsylvania, look at Philadelphia, Hershey, Gettysburg, Pittsburgh. That supports many jobs here and all over the United States. So we're hurting ourselves as a country by saying we want less tourists, or we're making it more difficult for tourists to come, let alone even more so for foreign students. Yeah. Foreign students are a huge benefit for the US economy. They bring skills, knowledge, cultural diversity to campuses all over the country. Small campuses like Elizabethtown College here, and let alone Penn State University, Drexel, Carnegie Mellon, you name some of the big ones. They have huge numbers of Chinese students, Indian students, Vietnamese students, Saudi Arabian students. And that's a huge benefit. And now we're losing some of that. We're losing some of those students that don't want to go anymore. They want to go to Canada instead, or they want to go to the UK instead. They pick other countries because they're afraid, or at least they don't like what's going on, and they just don't want to take a risk. They don't want to take any risk. So it's really hurting us. Less tourists, less students, and yeah, I hope people will see. Again, I'm also not political, but I'm just looking at the economy, right? Just the economy and jobs. That's what I do, economic development. We want to support those jobs, keep those jobs here in the U.S., and they are highly dependent on international trade in general.
So I guess I'll start with the immigration. Number one, I did that for about 5 years before coming to the PHRC. So at least on the technical side of things, it's a challenge to say the least, especially for those who are trying to come here through the quote-unquote legal means. So just to give you an example of that, like in Canada, if you have a master's or above, you can go in and get a green card. In the US, you have to go through a lottery process. And there's only a finite number of visas. You could have a PhD from one of the highest universities in the world. But if you don't meet the certain requirement imposed, or you're not lucky enough to win the lottery that year, or you don't have a boss, asking for you, you're kind of out of luck. And sometimes that puts you in these very demanding physical positions that are still important. And we have to remember that they're extremely important. But we can't forget that these are people who are coming from countries with extraordinary backgrounds. Yeah. Just on that note. But also, when it comes to us at the PHRC, we want you to know that we have immigration protections. Now, it's not like if there's an issue with immigration, you come to us. That's not what that means. It means that we tell you, here are the ways that if you are discriminated against under the acts that give us our authority, we will protect you. We want to ensure that anybody, regardless of their status, can come to us. It is not your job to determine, have I been discriminated against? It is not your job to even conceive that. If you feel, even if it's imagined, our director has always said, whether it's real perceived or imagined, it is our job to identify that issue, not yours. You are in Pennsylvania, you are protected by our authority. So if you need help, reach out. Now, on a more outreach and academic level, how challenging is our job? Well, we encompass the entirety of Pennsylvania. I am in a division of 5 people. So, that's 67 counties where 5 people have to consistently be deployed to handle issues of a variety, whether it's covered by the PHRA or not. Because our job is not just to address issues after they happen, we want to do preemptive work by doing, once again, that dialogue that I mentioned earlier. It's incredibly important. And on top of that, our max number, I believe right now, is a complement of 89 total employees, 93, somewhere around there, that we currently have at the agency. I could be off by a few, but take it or leave 1 or 5, members of our agency, but think about that. Even if it's 90 people to address the issues of 13 million citizens in PA. What we ask is talk to your representatives, write them. Ask if you support the kind of work that we do, let them know that so that they can give us the compliment that we need to ensure the safety, security, and commingling of all of our citizens.
You want to try this?
I think it's on. Testing. I think it's clear that, from this conversation that travel and business and trade and all of that clearly are one of the tools that Rachel will need if she wants to see this go down, right? It's one of the tools, but you're crippled now, it seems. I mean, you don't have, it's just weaker now, I think, from what I'm seeing now. Whether, I'm of the belief that this will pass, that we're going to get, because we need each other in the world. We need this international exchange. So I'm of the opinion that this is going to get better. Do you agree or disagree? Are you optimistic or not? And then we'll take a question from the audience.
Well, yes, we I guess as human beings, we always look for the bright side, the bright part, the light at the end of the tunnel. I guess that's only natural. But I guess something else that, answering your earlier question as well, something that we can also do is be aware. Since the topic is hatred, I don't know how many of you are aware how many hate groups are there not far from here. In Pennsylvania, and you touch on York, Hanover, just recently, the unfortunate situation, and this I'll bring this topic because I wasn't going to go there, but it's something concrete and it's something that is affecting the community. In Pennsylvania, there are 76 hate groups that we monitor, because obvious reasons. And we have close contact with the FBI. They have different units looking into that. And we'll talk with you, Hector, for some, it's the amount of hate that we're receiving recently because of the unfortunate and tragic situation with the police officers, the 3 police officers that were killed in near Hanover in York County. For some reason, people, the KKK there, they linked before they had the authorities, the culprit or who was the shooter, somehow they started spreading words that it was a Mexican immigrant, undocumented. And so, until obviously they were hoping it wasn't one of them. You know. But so we are working with the FBI, we are providing all that evidence, but they told us, Carlos, this is only normal because it's, I mean, normal, which is, I mean, we cannot normalize hatred. It's not a difference of opinion, right? And so, but we are actively working because of the amount of hate groups. And so one has, I mean, we are aware, but one has to be aware and get involved, I guess. So.
I believe I totally agree with you, and with the relationships or with the countries, there is always up and downs. You know, sometimes it's very, very good, and the next time it's turned around. Just, there is a lot of behind the scene. I'm not talking politicians, so I'm not talking about it. There's a lot of behind the scene nobody knows, and besides the official, high official levels, they may decide what they do. But one part, I believe, whatever they do, they want the best for the citizens, best for the countries. Just like China, 2000, we entered the WTO. You know, from 25 years, we have great times with the United States, and also we have really, really bad times with the United States. You know, one person was told me a long time ago, they said, when we joined the WTO, just like get married with the world. You know, and there is a time, going to be a rough time, but we need to work together and make the marriage successfully, so need an effort from both sides. So today, yeah, China is going to be the second largest GDP in the world. America is the number one within 20 some years. So I agree with US feel a lot of pressures, you know, and be the number one in the world country for so many years, and they're so comfortable, you know, and they would not pay attention to the China as they don't think within the 15, 20 years China can grow that fast. You know, suddenly they turn their heads around there from a baby to the giant man. You know, maybe the giant man's not having muscle as the US has, you know, but who knows? So, but for China, they said, okay, we just want to grow, we just want a better life for the peoples, and but US don't think that way, you know. But in the long run, I believe the two biggest country in the world right now, and the world is big enough, you know. So one is East, one is West. I think they need each other, need to work together. You know, there's no war going to be. I believe as the leaders, nobody wants to go to war. You know, that's the definite truth. You know, just like Friday, finally Donald Trump was talked to the sea together on the phone, you know. But the message, true or not false, the message is said very positive. Okay, we need to, you know, start back into the table to talk. We need to help each other to develop economies and tourism, those kind of things. So there is good bad times, so we need to believe, as Carl said, the future is bright. So we need to believe that this is what we continue doing. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think a lot, when you talk about hate, a lot of hate is based on fear. People are afraid. People are afraid of the other. You know, the other could be a black man, could be an immigrant, could be a gay person. I mean, you know, as somebody who's different from you. I think, and you see that all over the world, I think, unfortunately, but I guess it's somehow part of human nature to be afraid of others who are not like you. And in extreme circles, you know, here in the US, you see that people are playing a blame game, right? When something happens, like the example you gave about maybe a Mexican immigrant might have done something. People just, before we even know anything, people start blaming somebody because they think it's, oh yeah, it's realistic to assume that it must be an immigrant because Americans don't do this. They don't kill anybody, they don't commit crimes. And we all know that's not true. I mean, immigrants are only a very small percentage. I think percentage-wise even smaller in proportionally in terms of crime than regular Americans. So, but that's not the perception. People have fear. They're afraid, and they want to blame somebody. And that is what you have to fight against, combat. And again, I get back to education and what do you call it?
Education.
Sorry? Yeah, I mean, that's the word. And you start as early as possible, right? And that's the most important, I think.
So, I'll start by saying, if throughout this speech you've heard me say US citizen versus Americans like the rest of my colleagues up here, that's purposeful because the Americas are many, and it includes Mexico, it includes Canada, and it includes everybody south of the border. So we always have to remember that.
Yeah.
Number one. And if we're going to foster an environment like this, we always have to remember that. So now I'll go. So yeah, I would say that I'm hopeful. I'm as I would call, a pragmatic optimist. In the sense of you have to look at history. History is very much circular in a way. And you can always see the same tendencies coming back up within one generation or another. A generation gets very comfortable, and then something happens, and then we all of a sudden coalesce around something. That's the enemy. This is the problem. And you can see it throughout history. Originally, it was us uniting against Great Britain. Then it became against Spain. Then against Mexico. Then against Spain. Then, it all so on and so forth. So I think we have to remember that things do get better. But we always have to remember that we can't forget that we have this tendency as a world, as a nation, to forget our past. And if we continue to do that, you'll see this circular behavior in an unending cycle. So yeah, things will get better, but we have to ensure that they continue to get better, not circling back for us to fix the problem and then move on from there.
And that we continue to teach our children the history. Don't let them forget it. Let me see who's got a question. And, okay.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much for your presence here. I've really enjoyed listening to you. I'm glad we started with history because my question concerns history. I do think we're going backwards. I'm not as optimistic as Joyce, although I would like to be. And this is a question about international trade. From my perspective, the Trump administration is really moving away from capitalism and more towards mercantilism, like old style 17th century mercantilism where trade is a tool of the state, especially the empire, to really help certain core big businesses that are sponsored by the state, and you play dirty to achieve those goals. Trade wars, etc. No respect for the worker, especially immigrant workers, but also domestic workers. It's this very sort of old school model of how trade and politics connects. And this is very concerning to me. But if you ask most Americans about mercantilism, no one really uses that term. It's not part of the popular consciousness. It's not how people think of themselves. People in the United States are famous worldwide for not knowing much about history, not really having a historical consciousness. So I'll get to my question. My question for each of you is to give us a little history lesson from the perspective of your countries about imperialism, colonialism, mercantilism. What is the lesson that we need to learn today?
Oh, wow. All right, so James, you're going to start. Sorry. I don't know if this is working. Yes. Oh, good.
Wow, that was good. No questions, and it's a big challenge. I just want to brief in. China has like 2,500 to 3,000 years of history. And China was one of the most powerful country in the world, and back to the Yuan dynasty, China had the largest territory, including part of the European and also Russian area, so in China. But last 100 years, China was not doing very well, especially last 100 years. Start Qing dynasty, end of the Qing dynasty, China is, I would not say the weakest country, but it's had a lot of wars and no powerful governments, and defect there are several countries, and was lost a lot and signed a lot of agreements was by paying the money or lose the territory. So until like World War II, finally China defeated the Japanese and the German, those things, and 1949 established called the People's Republic of China. But that time China is still very poor, honestly. There's no some trade rules, regulations, nobody doing business with China. It is truth, and special until special after the Chinese Revolution, Cultural Revolution, even make the worst. That's true. That's the truth. China not with any relationship with any country beside China. It's very close the door until I think the first one visit from the U.S. government Nixon is 1973. That start slowly established a little bit of relationships out of China with the global wise, but just U.S. until 1979 established official relationship, China-U.S. relationship. But before the 79, we don't talk about any trade. Honestly, tax, rules, there's nothing. It is truly is nothing. So, and China is not on the table to discuss anything with anybody. There's no, it is a shame they said no power if you're weak or if you're what do you mean? If you're poor, that way. That time, I can tell you, Chinese family income, annual family income, guess how much is less than $100 US a year. That's the truth. So that's why US was putting China, used to call friends, then call a competitor, right now call enemy. When you $100 versus $100,000, there's just don't count that. You don't need to count that. So today, Chinese annual overall family income is $15,000. So there's a long way to go versus US at least the $50,000 to $60,000 per family. Still a long way to go, but with the larger populations, seems to make the numbers bigger. That's why I was saying it's bigger men with not too much muscles, But anyway, back to your questions, 2000 we entered the WTO. That times we are on the table to start negotiating. But tax-wise, China has always not a lot of high tax because we're back to the 2000 or even 2010. We're not a consuming country. We're a manufacturing country. We are most is export. Okay, it's not a consumer. This is not a lot of product coming to the China, and the Chinese families not able to afford. So it's called a manufacturing company. We export all kinds of things to the world. U.S. obviously is biggest market, to China. So with that said, you don't have bargaining point to talk about tax, honestly, And they're looking at it if we after 2010. I seek dramatically increase the middle class, and we're getting more buying powers in the China family, and you can see the luxury products or a lot of products start coming to the China. That times protect the local or private business or even state-owned business. We start impose the tax overall, but compared overall, still much lower. because we want to bring the investment coming, the foreign investment coming. We want to bring the foreign product coming, and to not just getting better for the citizens' life, also getting better for the kind of stimulate the economy, local economy, to make it better. So before the pandemic, like 2019, and that times I think we are more looking at protect the local business, and the state-owned government businesses start imposing more and more taxes. And also for certain products we have code on. It's not everybody able to export or import it. You need, based on the whole year plan, and they give a code for certain items or the consumer products, So last part to answer your question, obviously today is a little bit special, U.S. imposed the tax, and once China back off, then that's called the tax war, tariff war, up to almost 125 or 145. It's just ridiculous. And after 100, basically, this is done. Nobody doing any trade. This is the period. The other one just the numbers. Donald Trump, a couple thousand on just the number of the games. But I believe the president Donald Trump, he's a great business person. Definitely, no doubt about it. Okay, he may say something a lot of people don't like it. Okay, but he's focused on certain things, and he know what doing. Just like today, still not have the highest tariff in China. He postponed the tariff in China right now. He get a done deal with the Canada, get a European, get a lot of different countries, even the Japan or Korea, but he postponed imposed the tariff on China. 30 right now it's 55, but 20, which is just for the drug is like a fentanyl, those things, but normally it's only 25 to 30, which is pretty close to what before the tariff war. So he knows what he's doing. I definitely believe that part, and he talked about a lot. He once on the table, he put all of the bargain chips on the table. If you have the chips, you can talk back, and he will agree. So with that said, I believe, not optimism, but I believe he's looking at what are the next move in China government's moves right now. Okay, he's watching closely because there's called Chinese Congress Conference on October, which gave more clear pictures the whole entire federal organization or government, organization where they're going to go and what we do. That's what they have. They have the conversation last Friday. This Friday, right? And it's very positive, but he just do not want to see China getting bigger, getting growth. That's definitely, just like back to 1987 when Japan was the second largest the GDP in the world, and they understand or not, I don't know, but that's one of my arguments. Thank you.
Well, that was a complete answer. That was the history of it. But I guess what I'll do now, because we really have to wrap it up, we're at the close end of it, and it's really been a full day. A lot of things have been discussed. I guess I'll just let each one of you say, just briefly, some closing things that you want us to leave with. We want to leave them with a sense, as you've heard, what can I do? How important is this? Just give them something that you think they could take away with it.
Thank you. Well, travel to Mexico. We have actually June 5th, last June 5th, so a few months ago, we just inaugurated the direct flight Philadelphia, Mexico City after a pause of about 7 years. And now Aeromexico, in a co-share with Delta Airlines, are flying direct to Mexico City, and so that's one thing. We were talking the importance of being in the place, learning and seeing by your own eyes the culture, and and probably get rid of stereotypes. So that's important. Also in Mexico, we're extremely happy that we have the first female president in North America. We are very proud of that. And so just I invite you to visit the Consulate. If you're ever in Philadelphia, please come to visit us. We'll give you a tour. We'll offer you some Mexican coffee and some for the drinking age people. We'll offer you some mezcal and tequila as well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Carlos. The Netherlands is really a country built on free trade, from its origins, really. It's a very small country, if you look at the world map, but it is the second largest exporter of agricultural products in volume and value after the United States. You believe it, a country of, 18 million people, right? Versus 300 million. So exporting is in our blood. There's a dark part of the history. You asked about, I talked about the Golden Age a little bit earlier. How at that time there was one large global company that kind of controlled the seas and commerce with Asia, for example. It was called the United East Asian Company, the VOC in Dutch. They had a monopoly on love trading with a lot of different countries, and I guess there was a mercantilism at that time for sure. What I see, unfortunately, in the U.S. is because I love free trade. I was hired here, when I came from Europe to Pennsylvania. I was hired by Governor Tom Ridge in his administration. He's a Republican, but he was an old-style Republican, if I may say so. He believed strongly in free trade, and he actually started an international trade program at the time, which is still there today. It went through all administrations, Republican, Democrat. So I worked for a Republican governor, but he traveled the world to companies all over the world to help promote Pennsylvania, to bring investment to Pennsylvania. So it's really not a political, issue. Foreign trade or for international investment, or at least should not be and was not a political issue. So I think we need to go back to that, look at the reality, the numbers, what is really benefiting the economy. What's the actual reality, and not just look at a couple of numbers that are convenient, that help us maybe inform a political agenda. And last, maybe go back to history. We talked several times. History, even people who can't travel overseas, it is certainly recommended, and we do have a direct flight to Amsterdam as well. But no, it's. If people can go to New York, look at the origins of New York, visit places that are still there, go to a history museum, and learn about that America was not built by Americans, right? It was built by immigrants. Immigrants became Americans, and immigrants came from all over the world. And they still do, and that's how America is great again. Sorry, that was
So I just want to say real quick, what I'm about to say is not PHRC, it's me, Hector Torres Diaz, saying this. So, to answer your question very briefly, it's a very difficult question, in particularly because you are dealing with somebody who comes from one of the last US colonies, and the oldest colony on planet Earth. Number one. Number two, the conversation would be a little differently if you were talking to a Puerto Rican who supported statehood. I am not such one. I can support the complete opposite, and that is a conversation I'm willing to debate anybody on any day at any time. So, and I assure you this is not something you want to do. So to begin, I'll give you a brief book. You can buy it in English. It's called El Jefe, The Boss. It goes through the history of Puerto Rico switching between Spain and the US. Even though, so just very quickly, to talk about mercantilism. So if you look back at 1896, the United States was about to enter what became the Great Depression in the 1930s. It had too much product and not enough consumers. So, in 1897, Puerto Rico received its autonomy from Spain. Within that year, US businesses entered Puerto Rico, and a year later controlled and predominated every industry, predominantly the small oil industry that we had. We're an archipelago, so there's really no oil there. But the little that there was, they predominated. But to put it into perspective, when we're talking about colonialism and how we're looking at that, the United States needed to expand across the Caribbean and other parts of Asia to ensure that it could sustain its economy. I mean, this is the kind of economic progress that McKinley pushed for in the 1890s, and well, it only prevented economic collapse for another 30 years. So we also have to be mindful of that information. But also, what can we learn from colonialism? PROMESA, the Fiscal Control Board. It is one of the only powers in the United States that can tell a duly elected government, your budget is crap. You can't make your own decisions, and we can overrule everything you do. And the United States allows them to do that because we're a colony. And so, number three, everything we pay for is 20% above market price in the US. I don't say mainland, I say the US. Two very different places. Number four, and very importantly, we pay for some of the highest costs of anything in any US jurisdiction. Electricity, for example, is by far more expensive there than anywhere else in the world. San Juan is more expensive than New York City. So those are the effects of such programs. So we have to be aware that it affects everybody at every level, even if you don't see them because they're your territory. And that's my point on that.
All right. Well, thank you. We have to join me in thanking our panelists so very much for being here with us. We are on a tight timeline, so we have to do it. And I also want to please stand, Rachel Meyer, once again. Let us thank you from the bottom of our people heart and appreciate your inspiration. Because again, we would not be having this whole discussion were it not for the inspiration that she gave to the World Affairs Councils of America. Get your councils talking about this, and I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad. I hope our young people took something away. Something I want to tell Hershey, as well as your teacher, thank you for reaching out. We look for a partnership from you with our Academic World Quest coming up next year, our summer internship program, and they can even go to China, okay? All right. The other thing for my friends who have a little bit of money to spare, we have started this emergency fund for college students. And I want to tell you about this. We're now focused on HAC because what we have discovered is that that's a college that many of our immigrant families will begin in, try to get their bearings, right? And FAFSA now has changed. Many of our families cannot get support. So we're stepping in to try to provide some financial support especially for those immigrant families, and many are on the soccer team and all of that they don't have to walk away from a college education. And we will be holding, again, I told you about the China thing, but we will be holding a health forum in collaboration with Highmark Blue Shield, and it's October 23rd, so it's a little ways away. Check our website, but we'll be talking about some major health issues in our region, and of course in how they relate to the world. We always bring that in. So with that, please, I thank you for being here. It's been a long day, but I hope you benefited from it. Yes. Bye-bye.